Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Debbie and I read a lot of books and I drink a lot of tea as well actually. Case in point. Today's book is a book that I kind of forgot that I hadn't talked about it on this channel, and it was a book that I read last Christmas. I remember reading it when I was working at the Playhouse on The Wizard of Oz, and the book is called Lullaby and it's by Leila Slimani. All the apologies for the pronunciation of that. I've never heard her name out loud. This book is originally French. I don't have the actual book with me anymore, so I've got some information on my computer which is next to me, so I'll be reading the blurb off my computer, just to let you know. The original French title is Chanson Douce, and in America it's called The Perfect Nanny. In the UK it was released under the name Lullaby. It was originally written in French and it's been translated into English, and I will say before I read the blurb that it was definitely obvious to me it had been translated as I read it, because there were certain points when the translation just seemed a little bit not perfect. The baby is dead. It only took a few seconds. When Miriam, a French-Moroccan lawyer, decides to return to work after having children, she and her husband look for the perfect caretaker for their two young children. They never dreamed they would find Louise, a quiet, polite and devoted woman who sings to their children and cleans the family's chic apartment in Paris. She stays late without complaint and is able to host enviable birthday parties. The couple and Nanny become more dependent on each other. But as jealousy, resentment and suspicions increase, Miriam and Paul's idyllic tableau is shattered. It's a dark book, and it was inspired by the real-life 2012 murder of children by their nanny in New York, and I did not realise it was based on a true story. Having read the information about the event on which the book is based, realise how close the book is to the actual events, which makes it, looking back on it, even more difficult to process. Because at the time I was just there thinking this is a very, very dark book, but at the time I did not know that it was based on a true story. I do now, and it definitely gives a new view of the book. It basically starts off with a description of the scene when the children are dead. So it starts off with that story straight away, and so the rest of the book is looking at the events that happened that led up to this murder. Pushing aside the fact that it is based on a true story, it is very realistic. And you know, I know of stories and even a series that I once watched which kind of touches upon this kind of story. I've mentioned this TV series before. It's called The Replacement. It was on the BBC a few years ago, about a woman who feels like she's being replaced by somebody else, and kind of the whole idea of I invited her into my life and is she taking over. I mean, I think I've even done a book review about a book called I Invited Her In, which is again on the premise of this is somebody I have invited into my life and they're messing everything up. There are so many things leading up where you're just thinking, why did this nanny not get fired before it all happened? There are so many little things that happen where the nanny is trying to show some sort of authority over the mother. You do wonder how anybody would accept that in their own home when there's things happening and the woman is almost acting like a mother when the mother is not at home, and doing that kind of thing of the kids rely on me and not you. The mother starts to question her own mind, and she starts thinking like, you know, well, am I doing something wrong? You know, am I just jealous of the relationship that my kids are having with their nanny? There are some things that the nanny does where you look at it and you just think, if that had happened like in my house, she would be long gone, that nanny, for what she was doing. But I think it's because the mother starts questioning herself so much that she doesn't quite realise what's happening. Miriam, she's gone back to work, you know, she's looking for the perfect nanny. On the surface, everything seems like okay, you know, like the kids are being well fed, you know, they're being loved, you know, they have got the perfect apartment, and then Miriam just goes into full jealousy mode. But yet the fact that it starts off with that very, very graphic scene of the children being dead, you know, I think that is enough for some people just to put the book down straight away. But as somebody who has read like a lot of murder mysteries, you know, I've read a lot of stuff that's quite graphic. An example of that would be the Rizzoli and Isles series by Tess Gerritsen. I'd say it's creepy, it's kind of disturbing in some ways, but not to the point where I wanted to put the book down. It was disturbing in a way where I was mostly intrigued by it. I mean, that first scene, I think it's because I've just got this image in my mind of it, so that's why I'm thinking of it as scenes rather than chapters. And I know that there will be issues in the translation, and as I said before I read the blurb, you know, there were certain points when I was reading it was just like, I have a feeling this might have been translated in a bit of a weird way, because there were some points where it's just like, I think the translation has made it not quite make sense. But it didn't change the fact that this story was like perfectly creepy. To say I enjoyed it would definitely be the wrong word. I found it intriguing. I think that's the best word to use. It was definitely an intriguing story. The fact that it was based on a true story just adds a layer of disturbed. And now having read about the original, like what actually happened, when it comes to real life murders, I've got a lot of opinions on how that kind of stuff should be handled. It's a hard one to talk about. But yet to say that I enjoyed the book would definitely be the wrong word to use, but I definitely found it a very powerful story. I think if I'd known at the time of reading that it was based on a true story, it probably would have affected my reading of it. I may not have even read it at all if I knew it was based on a true story. My opinions on taking real life stories and turning them into fiction, it almost seems offensive, especially in a book like this where you have a lot of concentration on the person who did it, because even though you are mainly seeing it from the mother's point of view, I think I just struggle to talk about this one just because now that I know that it's based on a true story. I don't know if I'd want to read it again. It's 224 pages. The version I had obviously was called Lullaby, and I'll pop a picture on the screen of the front cover for you if you are intrigued by it. It says publication date September 2020. I definitely read it last year. Unless I just got a different version of it, I don't know. I don't know why this says publication September 2020, because I definitely read it last year. I remember seeing the cover in my local Morrison's and thought that it looked really, really interesting, especially when the tagline on the front of the book is "The baby is dead, it only took a few seconds," and I found that tagline really intriguing. So it's translated by Sam Taylor. Yeah, I'd say that I wouldn't say that I enjoyed it because it was very dark. Obviously, I don't have it anymore, which means it wasn't a book that I wanted to keep. Translation did seem a bit clunky in places, but it didn't take away from the story as much. It's mainly a book about jealousy and resentment. But I think the main core of the book is the jealousy. And it's Miriam, the mother's jealousy of everything becoming perfect while she's back at work. So obviously she's busy and people are enjoying and getting on with it and not really missing her while she's back at work, and it's because the nanny is doing kind of too perfect a job. And then obviously with it starting with the chapter of the crime scene, after that first chapter it then goes back in time and it just looks at the events leading up to it. I was obviously talking for way too long because I had to change my batteries, so that's a good sign I need to wrap this up. In the UK it's Lullaby by Leila Slimani. In America it's called The Perfect Nanny, and the original book is called Chanson Douce, and it's translated by Sam Taylor, and it was originally written in French. Thanks for watching. This felt like it was a very interesting review, really. Just because it was a book that, I don't want to say I enjoyed it just because of the subject material. But yes, so that was Lullaby by Leila Slimani. I'll pop a link in the description to where you can find the book. I'll also pop a picture on the screen of the front cover as I know it. If you are aware of other titles for this book, please pop it in the comments so that people can find it in their own places if they do want to know about the book. Yeah, thanks for watching. I have been Debbie. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you next week for another video. Hope everybody's staying safe.